Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a vast steppe stretching endlessly in every direction. The wind howls, carrying the scent of grass and the whispers of eternity. Above, there is no ceiling, no walls, only the endless dome of the sky. The Mongols called it the eternal blue sky. Tengri, a god, a guardian, a mystery that watched over them from the beginning of time. The Mongols lived not in cities of stone, but beneath this endless sky. For them, the heavens were not just a backdrop, they were alive. The stars were guides, ancestors, omens. The moon could predict war. The sun could bless or curse entire kingdoms, and comets. They were the fiery arrows of gods, slicing across the darkness to announce doom or destiny. When Genghis Khan rose from obscurity, the world asked, how did one man, from the forgotten steppes, come to command half the earth? The Mongols would have answered simply, because Tengri willed it. His birth was foretold by the alignment of stars, his victories written in the movements of the heavens. And tonight, as we sit beneath our own sky, centuries later, we will journey through their world, a world where shamans whispered with the spirits, where eclipses decided wars, where blood moons were warnings from beyond, and where the universe itself seemed to bow before the will of the great Khans. So, settle in. Pour yourself some tea, dim the lights, and let the shadows of the past surround you. For what you are about to hear is not just history, not just myth, but the cosmic story of a people who believed the stars held the fate of empires. Welcome to the eternal blue sky. The Mongols did not build temples of stone. They did not carve idols of wood. Their god needed no walls, no shrine, no priestly robes. Their god was the sky itself. They called it Tengri, eternal, boundless, blue. Always above, always watching. For the Mongols, Tengri was more than a deity. Tengri was destiny. Every birth, every battle, every storm across the steppe was thought to be guided by this unseen power. The sky was their cathedral, the open plains their altar. When thunder cracked across the horizon, it was Tengri speaking. When the stars shifted in strange ways, it was Tengri giving signs. When the moon turned red in a blood eclipse, the Mongols trembled, for they believed it was Tengri's warning that great change was near. But Tengri was not alone. To the Mongols, the sky was filled with spirits, guardians of mountains, rivers, and fire. Shamans, cloaked in furs and feathers, would enter trances, beating their drums like the heartbeat of the universe, to speak with these forces. Through them, the Mongols believed they could bend fate, gain protection, or summon vengeance upon enemies. And yet above them all, Tengri remained supreme, eternal, untouchable, a god of order in a chaotic world. When Genghis Khan united the tribes, he claimed he was chosen by Tengri himself. His title, Genghis Khan, the oceanic ruler, was not just political, but cosmic. He was the sword of the sky, the will of Tengri made flesh. Imagine for a moment being a soldier under his command. You ride across the endless grasslands, the stars blazing above you like a million eyes. You believe every victory you win is written in the sky, every arrow you shoot, guided by Tengri's hand. Would you not fight harder? Would you not feel unstoppable? The Mongols were not just warriors. They were believers in a cosmic destiny, people who saw no separation between heaven and earth. To them, the sky itself demanded that they conquer. And so, with Tengri watching, the Mongols rode, and the world trembled. If Tengri was the eternal sky, then the shamans were its messengers. They were not kings, not warriors, but their power was feared just as much. Clad in furs, with iron bells hanging from their belts and eagle feathers crowning their heads, Mongol shamans were the ones who could pierce the veil between worlds. Their drum beats echoed like thunder across the steppe, until the rhythm blurred the line between waking and dreaming. In those moments, it was said, the shaman's soul left his body and soared into the sky to commune with Tengri, or descended into the underworld to battle spirits that haunted the tribe. Fire crackling in the center of the yurt, shadows dancing on the walls. Villagers would sit in silence as the shaman chanted in strange guttural tones. His voice was not his own. It was the voice of ancestors, of unseen beings, of cosmic forces that guided the fate of the Mongols. They believed shamans could call the rain, heal the sick, curse enemies, or bless warriors before battle. Even Genghis Khan himself sought their guidance. For great campaigns, shamans would sacrifice horses or sheep, offering their spirits to Tengri, asking whether conquest was written in the stars. But it wasn't only about power. The shamans also told stories of how the universe was born from an endless sea, how the earth rested on the back of a great animal, how the Milky Way itself was a road for spirits traveling between worlds. These myths gave the Mongols a cosmic map, a sense of their place in a universe that was vast, mysterious, and alive. And yet there was always a danger in wielding such power. Shamans could be revered or feared. If crops failed, if disease spread, if storms ruined the grasslands, whispers would rise. Had the shaman angered the spirits? Some were executed, others exiled, for the unseen forces they claimed to control could just as easily turn against them. To the Mongols, the shaman was both a guide and a gamble, a human bridge between chaos and order, between life and death, between man and the eternal sky. Imagine sitting there, on a freezing night, the fire low, the shaman's drum echoing like a heartbeat, the air heavy, charged. You feel something watching, something vast. And you ask yourself, is it only the shaman's trick, or did Tengri really hear us tonight? To the Mongols, the sky was not empty, it was alive. Every star, every flicker of light above the steppe carried a message. A whisper from Tengri, the eternal blue sky. When Mongol warriors rode beneath the night sky, they didn't just see constellations. They saw signs, omens, and guides. The stars were not faraway suns. They were the souls of ancestors, watching, judging, guiding. One constellation we know as the Big Dipper was sacred. They called it the Seven Elders. To them, these seven shining guardians circled above, keeping watch over the steppe. Warriors swore oaths beneath them, believing their light could see into men's hearts. When comets streaked across the sky, the shamans told of great changes to come. A Khan would rise, or a Khan would fall. Some whispered that Genghis Khan's victories were foretold by a blazing comet that lit up the night before his greatest conquest. Whether truth or legend, the stars were believed to choose sides in human affairs. Eclipses, too, carried dread. Imagine the endless Mongolian steppe lit by a full moon, and then suddenly, darkness swallowing it whole. The people would gather in fear, banging drums, firing arrows at the blackened moon, desperate to chase away the dark spirit they believed was devouring it. For if the moon died, what chance did mankind have under the eternal sky? The Mongols believed the heavens were a mirror of the earth. Wars, plagues, victories, and deaths. All of it had already been written in the stars. The shamans, with their chants and their bones, were merely interpreters of this cosmic script. But here's the chilling thought. If the stars already decided everything, was human free will just an illusion? When Genghis Khan conquered half the known world, was it his brilliance and brutality, or simply the stars playing out a story already written? The Mongols lived with this paradox. They fought fiercely, yet always with one eye on the sky, as if waiting for the universe to nod in approval, or to strike them down. And so, under the vast dome of heaven, every night became a reminder. The stars were watching. The sky was speaking, and destiny was written above. To the Mongols, Genghis Khan was not simply a conqueror. He was a force of nature, a man written into the stars long before he drew his first breath. His birth was wrapped in mystery. The chronicles tell us that his mother, Holin, dreamed of a great light descending from the sky, filling her tent with brilliance. Some say this was a sign from Tengri, that her child was touched by the eternal sky itself. When Temujin, later known as Genghis Khan, was born, he clutched a blood clot the size of a knuckle in his tiny fist. To the Mongols, this was no ordinary child, a sign of destiny, a warrior marked for greatness. From the very beginning, shamans whispered that the heavens had chosen him, that the eternal blue sky had given him the right to rule. The Mongols even used the phrase "by the will of Tengri" to describe his victories. Each conquest was not just strategy and strength, it was cosmic approval, fate unfolding, and fate seemed to bend in his favor. When rivals underestimated him, they fell. When armies outnumbered him, the sky seemed to grant him storms of dust and sudden rains that blinded his enemies. To his followers, these were not accidents of weather. These were the very elements rising to defend the chosen son of Tengri. His title, Genghis Khan, meant universal ruler, not merely the leader of a tribe, or even a people, but of the world. This wasn't arrogance, it was seen as his divine mission. He was the earthly hand of a cosmic order, stretching across the steppes, across kingdoms, across the horizon itself. Yet, there was a darker side. If Genghis Khan was chosen, then resistance against him wasn't just rebellion against a man, it was defiance of heaven itself. This belief made the Mongol armies unstoppable. They didn't just fight with swords and bows, they fought with the certainty that destiny itself was on their side. Imagine being one of his enemies. You see the endless horde thundering across the steppe, dust swallowing the sky. You know they believe they cannot lose, because the eternal sky has already written their victory. And somewhere in your heart you begin to wonder, what if they're right? What if the stars really are against us? For the Mongols, Genghis Khan's rise wasn't just history, it was prophecy fulfilled. The sky had sent its chosen one, and the world trembled before him. Every empire trembles at the death of its founder. But when Genghis Khan, the man believed to be chosen by the eternal blue sky, finally fell, the moment became more than history. It became mystery. It became myth. The exact circumstances of his death are shrouded in secrecy. Some say he fell from his horse while hunting. Others whisper he was struck by lightning, taken back into the sky that had once marked him as its sun. A few legends claim he was killed in battle against the Western Shia, struck down by an enemy blade. But the truth? Lost to time, sealed under centuries of silence. The Mongols had no interest in letting the world know their Khan had died. For to them, he wasn't just a ruler, he was destiny itself. If word spread, enemies would rise, allies might falter. So they hid it. They carried his body back across the vast steppe in secret, guarded by warriors sworn to silence. And here begins the darkest part of the tale. According to one version, every person who crossed the funeral procession's path was executed. Shepherds, travelers, even whole villages. Nothing could be allowed to reveal the secret. The Khan's death had to be swallowed by the earth itself. Where was he buried? That is a mystery still unsolved. Some say he rests near the Annan River where he was born. Others claim his grave lies at Burkhan Khaldan, the sacred mountain he once climbed to pray for strength. Legends tell that after his burial, soldiers rode horses over the land, trampling the ground flat, then diverted rivers to wash away every trace, hiding him forever beneath earth and water. Imagine it. The greatest conqueror the world had ever seen, entombed not in gold or stone, but in silence. The earth itself his coffin, the steppe his eternal shroud. But death, for Genghis Khan, was not seen as an ending. The Mongols believed his spirit rose to Tengri, joining the eternal sky from which he had come. To them, he did not die. He returned. Returned to the heavens that had sent him, perhaps to watch, perhaps to guide, perhaps to wait until the world once again needed its cosmic ruler. And yet his unseen grave still calls to us. Even today, adventurers, archaeologists, and dreamers search for it. Because buried with him, perhaps are secrets, lost histories, treasures, or maybe even truths about how the Mongols saw the universe itself. The silence of his grave is not empty. It hums like a drumbeat in the distance, reminding us that the greatest mysteries are not out in the stars, but sometimes beneath our very feet. And so, under the eternal sky, one question lingers like the wind across the steppe. Where does the son of Tengri rest? For the Mongols, death was not the end. It was a crossing, a passage from the fragile world of flesh into the vast eternal domain of spirits. They believed that when a person died, their soul left the body and began a journey. Not all souls traveled the same road. Some rose upward, toward the bright blue dome of Tengri's eternal sky, where the ancestors dwelled, riding ghostly horses across the Milky Way, a shimmering road of spirits. Others, burdened by anger or curses, wandered in the middle world, restless shadows whispering across the steppe, and the most unfortunate, they sank into the dark underworld, where malevolent spirits roamed. Shamans were the guides, with their drums echoing like thunder. They claimed they could call back a soul or at least speak to it on its journey. When someone died, the Mongols left food, drink, and sometimes a favorite horse beside the body to help the soul find its way. For what good is eternity without a steed beneath you on the endless plains of the afterlife? The Mongols saw death itself as natural, a return, not a punishment. Life was fragile, fleeting, often violent. But the sky above was eternal, and in that eternity, every soul had its place. The afterlife wasn't just heaven or hell. It was a reflection of the steppe itself. Endless and open, but divided by destiny. Warriors especially were believed to hold a special fate. The bravest, those who died in battle, were thought to ride into the sky at once, souls becoming stars, their spirits watching over the living. To ride under the night sky was, in a sense, to ride beneath the army of ancestors who had come before, but there were darker beliefs too. Some souls could not rest. Murdered men, betrayed wives, shamans who wielded their power recklessly. These spirits lingered, clinging to the living world with cold, hungry hands. To meet one on the steppe at night was to invite madness, sickness, or worse. It was said that during certain nights, especially under eclipses or strange moons, the veil thinned. The dead could wander close, whispering into tents, brushing against sleeping children, leaving behind chills that no fire could drive away. And yet death was not feared. Not truly. For the Mongols, life and death were threads in the same fabric, woven together by Tengri. The ancestors weren't gone. They were there in the winds, in the stars, in the voice of the shaman's drum. So when the Mongols buried their dead, they did not weep like other peoples. They whispered prayers into the smoke of the fire, sending words upward to the sky, certain that their loved ones were listening. Imagine it. A funeral on the steppe, the endless grass rolling beneath the twilight sky. A lone drum beats, horse, riderless, stands tethered nearby. And above, the stars shimmer like eyes, thousands of ancestors watching, waiting, welcoming another rider into eternity. For in the Mongol soul, death was never the end. It was only a ride, from one horizon to the next. To the Mongols, the heavens were not silent. They spoke, through storms, through stars, through fire in the sky. And those who knew how to listen could hear the voice of fate itself. Every shift in the cosmos was a message. The Mongols believed that eclipses, comets, even strange halos around the moon were warnings or blessings sent by Tengri. The sky was alive, and when it darkened or flared, it was never by chance. An eclipse, for instance, was no ordinary event. Imagine the steppe, filled with warriors and horses, the sun blazing overhead. And then, suddenly a shadow swallows the light. To the Mongols, this was a cosmic omen, a sign that heaven itself was displeased. Wars were paused, sacrifices made, shamans consulted. It was believed that the balance between earth and sky had been disturbed, and only through rituals could it be restored. The moon carried its own language. A blood-red moon meant violence. To see it was to know that war, betrayal, or sickness would follow. A pale, ghostly moon spoke of famine and restless spirits. And when the moon vanished entirely, swallowed by shadow, many Mongols believed the sky was showing them death itself. Then there were the comets. To us, they are icy rocks streaking across space. To them, they were flaming arrows of the gods, streaking across the heavens with messages too powerful for ordinary men to ignore. A great leader might rise or fall when a comet appeared. Entire tribes would shift direction, abandon plans, or even begin invasions based on the sight of one. Shamans read these signs with awe and dread. They would sit by the fire, eyes closed, listening for whispers in the crackle of flames, then lift their faces to the night sky. Their words could guide armies, for if Tengri had spoken, no one dared to act against it. Even the great Khans, men of immense power, bent their heads when the sky showed its will. And there were subtler omens too. A ring around the moon meant danger. Shooting stars could signal the death of a warrior. Clouds shaped like horses were thought to carry the souls of the dead galloping across the heavens. The Mongols lived so close to the elements, so tied to the open sky, that every detail mattered. Nothing was random, but omens weren't always doom. Sometimes the sky promised victory. When the stars burned bright and clear over a camp before battle, it was taken as a blessing. When thunder rolled but no storm came, it meant the spirits were angry with the enemy, not the Mongols. The heavens were both a warning and a weapon. Imagine being a Mongol rider on a night march. The air is cold, your horse's breath fogs in the darkness. You look up and there it is, a blazing comet tearing across the sky. Your heart pounds. Is it a sign of triumph or a warning of death? Every rider whispers a prayer, because in that moment, the heavens decide what tomorrow will bring. To us, eclipses and comets are natural events. To them, they were prophecies written in light and shadow. And perhaps in their way, the Mongols weren't wrong. For haven't we all felt it? That strange shiver under a blood moon. That awe when the sun is swallowed by darkness. That whisper inside us that maybe, just maybe, the universe is trying to say something. Above the steppe, there was no throne greater than the eternal blue sky. The Mongols called it Tengri. Not just a god, but the infinite living sky itself. The dome of blue that stretched over the steppe was both father and ruler, the highest power in existence. Every mountain, every river, every warrior, they all bowed beneath it. For the Mongols, Tengri was everywhere, always watching. His will shaped victories and defeats, guided migrations, blessed herds, and cursed the arrogant. If a Khan rose to power, it was because Tengri had given him the right. If a tribe collapsed into ruin, it was because Tengri had withdrawn his favor. Nothing escaped the gaze of the eternal sky. When Genghis Khan claimed his destiny, he did not say he ruled by his own strength. He declared that his power came from Tengri. His conquests, his victories, his empire, all were sanctioned by the sky. To oppose him was to oppose the will of heaven itself. This belief gave him not just authority, but something deeper, the aura of inevitability. Mongol shamans played a sacred role in this bond. They were not priests in temples, but wanderers who communed with the spirits of wind and fire, channeling messages from Tengri. They burned offerings of horsehair, bones, and milk beneath the open sky, their chants carrying upward like smoke. When Mongol armies marched, shamans walked among them, whispering blessings and warnings. Their visions were treated as the voice of the eternal sky itself. The rituals were stark, almost primal. A Khan might sacrifice a white horse, offering its spirit to Tengri, so the heavens would bless his campaign. Milk was poured into the earth as a symbol of purity, the lifeblood of the herds given back to the gods. And always, prayers were spoken under the vast, endless sky. No temple walls, no carved idols, only the raw immensity of nature itself. But Tengri was not a god of kindness alone. He was balance, capable of granting fortune or unleashing fury. If a leader grew arrogant, if he ignored the omens or defied the cosmic order, Tengri would strip him of his fate. Drought, defeat, betrayal, these were not coincidences, but the sky's punishment. The Mongols understood this intimately. Power was never truly theirs. It was borrowed from above. Even death itself was tied to the eternal sky. To die beneath the open heavens was a blessing. Warriors who fell in battle believed their spirits were carried upward, becoming part of the great expanse. Their blood fed the earth, their breath joined the wind, and their souls rose into the blue. What makes Tengri fascinating is how universal, yet mysterious he was. The Mongols did not carve him into stone or paint his face. Tengri had no image, no temple. He simply was. The sky itself was his body, the storms his voice, the stars his eyes. Every rider, every shepherd, every Khan lived beneath him, reminded daily of their place in the cosmic order. And perhaps that is why the Mongols conquered the world with such relentless certainty. They did not see themselves as mere men on horseback. They saw themselves as the chosen sons of the eternal blue sky, riding on destiny's winds. Even now, when you look up on a clear day, that endless blue, stretching beyond sight, you can almost feel it. The vast, watching presence of something eternal, something that rulers, warriors, and entire civilizations once bowed to with trembling respect. The Mongols didn't just live beneath the sky, they read it like scripture. Every star, every eclipse, every shifting pattern of light was a message from the heavens. To ignore the night sky was to close your ears to Tengri himself. The steppe, with its endless horizons and pure darkness, gave the Mongols a view of the stars unlike anywhere else. No smoke, no walls, no cities to block the light, only the cold, unbroken silence of the cosmos. Imagine a Mongol rider pausing on the grasslands at night. Above him, the Milky Way, blazing like a river of fire spilled across the heavens. He would not see it as mere beauty, but as a path of spirits, the road souls traveled after death. Astrology for the Mongols was not entertainment, it was survival. Mongol shamans and skywatchers studied the stars before great hunts, battles, or migrations. If the stars aligned favorably, they believed Tengri's blessing was near. If the constellations twisted strangely, or if the moon darkened in eclipse, it was a warning. Proceed carefully, or disaster would follow. They paid special attention to the moon. A blood moon was not just a celestial event. It was an omen of war, betrayal, or the fall of rulers. A dark moon, when the sky seemed empty, was a time of mystery, when spirits wandered freely. Even comets, blazing daggers of fire across the sky, were signs of great change, heralds of dynasties rising or crumbling. The Mongols also believed that each person was born under a star that shaped their destiny. Some stars favored warriors, others herders, others shamans. To know your star was to understand your path in life. Mongol shamans would often chant beneath the constellations, calling upon the ancestors who now dwelled in the heavens, asking them to reveal hidden truths. And then there was the Great Bear constellation Ursa Major. To the Mongols, it was no mere cluster of stars. They called it the seven gods, divine guardians, who circled the sky each night. These gods were seen as protectors of travelers, herders, and even rulers. Watching the seven gods was like keeping track of the movements of Tengri's own council. But perhaps the most mysterious belief was that the stars were not just lights, but living beings, ancient souls or divine messengers, looking down upon earth. Each flicker was a watchful eye. Each fall of a shooting star was a spirit departing. When stars burned bright, hope rose. When they dimmed or vanished, dread spread across the campfires. The Mongols were masters of war and conquest, but they never marched blindly. They marched in rhythm with the heavens. Before a battle, Genghis Khan's astrologers would study the constellations, calculating the exact moment when fate was aligned in his favor. And when the stars signaled victory, the Mongol army struck with terrifying certainty, believing the universe itself was on their side. This belief, that the stars dictated destiny, gave the Mongols unshakable confidence. To their enemies, they looked unstoppable. To themselves, they simply followed the map written across the night sky. Even now, centuries later, when you look up at Orion's belt or the North Star, you might wonder, are these just glowing spheres of gas? Or are they the same ancient guides the Mongols once trusted to shape the fate of empires? Because if the stars do hold secrets, perhaps they've been whispering them all along to those who dare to listen. Tonight, when you step outside and lift your eyes upward, remember this. The same stars that shone above the Mongol steppe burn above you now. The same moon that turned red with omen over Genghis Khan's warriors still drifts silently across our skies. The same comets that terrified empires still blaze their trails through the dark. For the Mongols, the cosmos was not distant. It was alive, whispering secrets, deciding fates, guiding armies. And in truth, aren't we still searching the heavens for meaning? Scientists read the stars with telescopes, just as shamans read them with smoke and song. Both are asking the same eternal question. What does it all mean? Perhaps that is the greatest legacy of the Mongols. Not only their empire, not only their conquests, but their belief that humanity is inseparable from the sky, that our destinies are not written only in the soil we walk on, but in the endless blue above. And so, as we sit under this infinite sky centuries later, we are not so different from them, still gazing upward, still listening for answers, still waiting for the universe to reveal its mysteries. Because in the end, whether Mongol or modern, warrior or dreamer, We are all, and always will be, children of the eternal blue sky.